So, welcome to our weekly briefing. There's a couple of major items I'm sure will be of interest to you. First, I'll just mention that we are proceeding now through our budget. We had 5 public hearings last week. We've received a lot of commentary on social media. We're receiving emails. We are, every office, conducting many meetings with residents, with organizations, and we are proceeding through a very full vetting, a public vetting of the county executive's budget recommendations, and we will craft our final budget for the county. The full council is going to take up the budget beginning Friday, May 4th, and we're going to wrap that up by May 17th, and the final budget action will be on May 24th. The council, as always, is putting education first, and we're very pleased the county executive has fully funded the Board of Education's request, and note that that includes a very significant expansion of pre-K and Head Start for low-income students, $2.5 million in the school board's budget, or the superintendent's budget, and we're pleased to see that. And of course, going to work hard in this budget process to ensure that our safety net programs are supported. The overall context is a challenging one. The county government is down about 0.5% in its budget allocation from last year. So there's a lot of tough choices in these budgets, and we're going to be working our way through. But one thing we will do, as we have always done, is make sure that the needs of our most vulnerable residents are a high priority. And on a more personal level, I am continuing my work to expand child care subsidies, and I'm urging my colleagues to continue investing in new programs for low-income kids so that they can start kindergarten ready to learn, and also expanding after-school programming so that kids whose families can't afford a safe place after school, a place where they can have enrichment opportunities, get STEM and coding opportunities, all of these things. We want to make sure that those kinds of opportunities are available to every kid in the county, regardless of their family's income. That's the budget. Tomorrow, we are introducing a special appropriation before the council to provide legal representation for county residents who are detained and who are in deportation proceedings. For those who cannot afford a lawyer and who do not have a prior conviction of a serious criminal offense. This is a major issue for us as we are looking at a federal administration that is targeting communities, new immigrant communities, our communities, and increasing federal immigration enforcement and sweeping up more of our residents into detention, and we fear deportation. And we want to know that everyone has access to representation, because when people have representation in these proceedings, they are able to take advantage of their rights, and they are able to more successfully defend themselves and keep their families together often. So the appropriation is for the Capital Area Immigrants Rights Coalition, and that is a nonprofit organization, and the purpose of our funds are to represent low-income county residents who are detained because of immigration proceedings. CARE will provide screening and legal representation for those who are detained, and this is really intentionally a public-private partnership. We are initiating this program, and we hope to see in the coming years support from the private sector, from people who live here in the county, from philanthropic donors to support that program over time.
The name again,
Doug,
what?
the name of the organization,
Yes.
It's called the Capital Area Immigrants Rights Coalition, CARE, C-A-I-R. The county actually has an existing small grant to CARE, I believe, from last year, but this is a special appropriation intended for us to be able to fully meet the need for residents who are detained, Montgomery County residents who are detained and cannot afford representation. And we are certainly looking down the road at the risk of increased enforcement of the potential of programs like TPS and other programs, to not receive support at the federal level. And we are trying to enhance and strengthen our programs to deal with this crisis, because we value all of our residents in Montgomery County, and we want everyone to have opportunities, and we want to support our families, and all we care about is if they're residents, and we are there for them. Last item I wanted to mention, or at least the next item I want to mention, very excited to share the news that the county has reached an agreement to open a new facility to do STEM or 21st century skills education in partnership with the Kid Museum, which is a leading nonprofit organization that works with the school system, with the rec department, with the libraries, with other nonprofit organizations to really help us be at the cutting edge or move to the cutting edge of what we are teaching young people about how to do coding or to do engineering or to do other kinds of creative disciplines that will relate to their career opportunities and their education. And we've been searching for several years with the Kid Museum for more of a permanent home. They are currently operating out of the basement of the Davis Library, and they have really maxed that facility out. And we're looking for a place where they could bring hundreds of thousands of kids through every year. And we're really excited. They have found a building. It is basically in the, it's in Rockville. I wouldn't say it's in the White Flint area, but it's nearby, Twin Brook. It's in the city of Rockville. It's in Twin Brook, right by the metro, actually. And it is a very significant size building that will enable the county to partner to bring at least 250,000 visitors, participants in programs through a year. So it's the, and well, I was getting to that. And we are very appreciative of Rockville's stepping up to work with us on this. It's a big deal because the cost of the appropriation that we have here is a little less than $10 million, but Rockville is really picking up a very large share of this and partnering with us in a very significant manner. And of course, this is in Twin Brook, and it's going to help just make Twin Brook a spectacular place. But nevertheless, it's very meaningful that the city has moved as quickly as they have on this opportunity, and we're really, really grateful to them. So this is just a very exciting moment as we begin something that will hopefully realize the vision of a world-class 21st century skills center for young people starting as early as early childhood, and continuing all the way through high school to help prepare them for the jobs of the future and to help feed the companies and the industries here in this county that are really drawing from that skilled workforce. So that is being introduced to the county council tomorrow as a capital budget. It's going straight, and it will go straight to committee. It's going straight to committee. Okay, sorry, let me pull my paper here together. I guess I should mention I've worked very hard on this personally too, if that's not evident. I've been working and meeting with the executive branch and with the organizations for some time to bring this into fruition. The CIP, we are making a lot of progress through the CIP, and we're finalizing a preliminary, an initial reconciliation of the capital budget. So that will be coming forward very soon. But overall, of course, you'll see reflected, as always, the council's strong commitment to school construction and school maintenance or modernization of facilities, as well as transportation projects, rec centers, so many more important priorities for us. Last item is the decision by the Court of Special Appeals about Costco. And as you know, the county government is the named plaintiff in that suit. And many of us really strongly opposed putting a gas station on the site of the Westfield Wheaton mall that would bring in thousands of cars every day just to get gas. And we felt that was not a really good use of that location and would be very damaging to the surrounding communities. And we went so far as to defend our decision in court, and we prevailed. So there will not be a gas station, a Costco gas station, coming onto the grounds of that mall. And yet the mall itself has revived or revitalized in a very remarkable way. The subsidy that the county did approve to help Costco come has resulted in a mall that is absolutely bursting with shoppers and is a very different mall than it was 4 or 5 years ago. And I think it's been a big success. So we got the best of both worlds here. We got Costco, we've got a fantastic, thriving mall, and we don't have an enormous gas station just bringing in, nothing but cars and degrading that experience there. So those are the items I wanted to mention, and I'd be delighted to take your questions.
On the legal representation proposal, obviously the president's immigration policies have been known for a long time now. Was there a precipitating event or a request that sort of brought this to light for the council recently?
Well, certainly we have seen an increase of enforcement, and we've also learned that when people who are detained have access to representation, that they get much better outcomes. As much as 4 times. The amount of deportation can be reduced as much as 25% of what it would otherwise be when a person has representation. And so, we know that many people are able to afford their own lawyers, but there are some who are not. And given that the federal government is continuing with its targeting of our communities, we just felt we had to match that as aggressively as we could. So that's what this program is about.
How much money are you putting?
This appropriation is for $373,000, and that's actually not a 12-year amount. I believe that's an 18-month amount, so it's a little bit more than a year.
And how many people do you think the county can help represent with that money?
I'm not sure. We think it's fully funding the need of people who are 200% of poverty, I think, or below, and who do not have significant prior criminal convictions.
I take it the county still maintains it's not a sanctuary county, but this proposal essentially is giving money to opposing ICE and their wishes. How do you sort of comport the two together?
Well, I've never really been personally, I don't engage in this question of what is and what is not a sanctuary city. There's no legal definition of that. I don't think it's helpful to even really refer to that term because it is used to assert a characterization of some communities, and we don't accept that characterization. But at the same time, we're vigorously defending the needs of our communities that are new immigrant. And this is a part of an agenda that is intended to ensure that if you live in Montgomery County, you're able to take advantage of the rights that you have. So, there are a lot of people who are getting caught up in the system today. They have families, they have businesses, they have children here in the schools, and we just want to make sure that they have access to representation in this civil process. And we know that people get much, much better outcomes when they do. And the ripple effects of success are so significant in this case that we just feel it's really an important public need.
I have a question about why the county is getting involved in legal representation for these folks. The board of directors at Care Coalition includes Alston and Bird, Freed Frank, Baker and McKenzie, Venable, a lot of I guess you could call them white shoe law firms, these are big names. Why would the county get involved in this particular
Sure.
aspect? I mean, I know the county does a lot of social services for folks, but why legal representation? And are they not entitled to public defenders?
Public defenders are in criminal proceedings, and that doesn't apply to this. So, no, they are not. And the reason is, first of all, our goal here is to launch a program. We do want to see this grow into something that has philanthropic support from the community. At the same time, we feel that there's urgency to stand it up now so that we are able to support the rights of people who live in this community now. And there are such deep impacts from a person who is caught up in detention, and then if that person is detained when that person did not need to be, when they could have successfully argued on various grounds that they are in fact entitled to stay and keep their family together, keep their business intact. The public need there is so substantial that it really just outweighs, the question. So, and it is also, deportation is one of the few types of legal proceeding where people are routinely detained and are often required to litigate their case without an attorney. So we just felt like this was, it is a crisis, and it's a crisis because, again, the federal government is targeting our residents and our communities. And so we need to respond, and that is what we are doing by initiating this program. At the same time, we hope to rally the community to support it over the long term.
Do we have, and I know the numbers are going to be very squishy because you're talking about people who may not be documented, so being able to say how many people in Montgomery County are affected by this.
I do have a better estimate. So the CARE Coalition estimates that there will be between 85 and 90 detained immigrants who are unable to pay for counsel in the calendar year 2018.
From Montgomery County alone?
Correct. Montgomery County residents.
You mentioned one of the requirements here is in regards to criminal records. Is there a sort of a threshold, a criminal threshold
Yes.
that this would apply to? Obviously, we had Fairfax County case with woman was taken in with a busted tail. Would that?
No, that would not. We have a list of, what's the word? It's in the statute. Exclusions. They are convictions. I can read a few of them. Murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree, rape in the first degree, things like that. We have a specific list, and those things would disqualify a person. Now, that's disqualifying for public funds. That person will need to pursue other avenues, but we're not going to support that with public funds.
Minor misdemeanors, they would still be able to use this. Correct. Okay.
There were a lot of residents that testified during the public hearings last week about the county funding some type of expert to talk to the FAA about the noise. Is that something the council's going to add to the budget?
I hope so. I have supported that. As you may have seen, I joined my colleague Roger Berliner in authoring a memo to my colleagues. The request is for an aviation expert. This is very interesting situation where the FAA has rerouted planes from like hundreds or even thousands of routes into a very, very narrow channel of routes. And so impacts that were once dispersed and therefore very light, essentially, kind of spread across the whole community, have now been intensely focused on a small number of neighborhoods. And it's a very substantial noise pollution affecting those residents. And we heard from many residents, that it wakes them up in the morning and they can't sleep at night and so on. The support that we're seeking is for an FAA expert who could help design alternative flight paths. And then the residents will be able to take that to the FAA to say, there is an alternative. And there have been examples of success with redesigning the flight paths and then using that to make a case.
The county hired some outside legal counsel to maybe prepare a lawsuit against the FAA. So what's the status? Is there going to be a lawsuit? Is that something the county dropped?
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one, I'm sorry.
Okay, no lawsuit that you know of pending?
I have not received an update on that. Yeah, I have not received an update on that one.
Okay, and you believe that this expert will be able to help convince the FAA, through some type of public process they have with hearings, that to maybe change the flight path?
Correct. We think that's the best shot. We
Have you
think,
se- I'm sorry. Have you seen that in other
I believe that there are
jurisdictions?
examples in
I know
other
across the country
jurisdictions,
There
yeah.
are folks who are in the same boat that this region is.
Yeah.
Can you all name one? Is there one where it's worked?
I was given that, I don't know that I can pull off the top of my head. I heard about some examples, I think, from Texas. It has happened. There have been jurisdictions that have successfully worked with the FAA to ameliorate the impact. But that's different than the legal challenges. Some of the Georgetown neighborhoods were unsuccessful in a legal challenge that they filed a few weeks ago. That's very different, trying to stop something on a legal basis, as opposed to approaching the FAA in a more collaborative manner, saying, look, there is a better way. Will you consider this, please?
Those planes have to come in somewhere, and, Reagan's on the river. So, if they don't fly over Montgomery County, or they
Yeah.
fly over Northern Virginia.
No, we're not saying that the argument is not that they shouldn't fly over Montgomery County. The argument is that they should disperse rather than fly so narrowly, as they used to. They used to disperse. And what has happened is the FAA has concentrated all of those flight paths into one narrow band. And as a result of that, people who live in proximity to that band are suddenly bearing the impact of all the flights that were once really spread out across a large area. And that's really deeply unfortunate. It's analogous to putting an 8-lane freeway right through an existing neighborhood. It's really the same thing.
Do you know why the FAA made that change?
They did that to improve the efficiency of the flight paths. They have arguments. They have their arguments, that's for sure.
And at the time, wasn't there someone from it's the agency that is sort of the ombudsman for this region, who said people under that narrow flight pattern would get hammered? I think that was actually, those were his words.
I'm sure that they acknowledge that there are significant impacts from their rerouting. And they are under a mandate to make the flight paths as efficient as possible, regardless of the impacts, as far as I can tell. And so we're trying hard to push back and say there's still a way to have a more efficient flight path, but one that doesn't, in a very unfair manner, put all the burden onto people who have not, they live there now, and it's deeply unfair.
Have you or anyone from the council, have they met with the FAA, anyone from the FAA?
I would imagine the county has. I have not personally, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have an approximate date as to when the county's FAA liaison is going to start working and then have a proposal?
Well, the council has not approved the expert.
Okay.
And if the council does approve this expert, that person would theoretically be available when the funding becomes available. So you're looking at, late summer before the funding would be available. But again, I appeal to you. It's as though the Federal Highway Administration just decided, hey, we're going to build an inner beltway inside the existing beltway, and deal with all that noise. Well, maybe there was a better way to meet the transportation challenge than doing that. Well, maybe there's a better way to meet the aviation transportation challenge than concentrating these flight paths right in one narrow lane. And all the people who live adjacent to that lane now, you take just the concentrated impact is severe.
Anybody else? Is that it?
Okay, thank you very much.